This year's Prairie Home Companion comes to you from Dallas, but before we get to it, I wanted you to have a little look at New York City, which is where I live these days. All my relatives from Lake Wobegon, Minnesota, love to come and have a look at New York because they say it makes them feel so good to go back home. When they come here, I like to take them on a subway and bring them up here to Central Park. To Midwesterners, Central Park is the place in New York that is, they imagine, as desperately dangerous, which goes to show you what a mythical city this is. Central Park is a paradise. It's about the size of a small North Dakota wheat farm, actually about exactly the size of the municipal limits of Lake Wobegon, Minnesota. But here in the center of Manhattan, it's a salvation for New Yorkers. To come from the Midwest, though, that peaceful and mannerly part of the country, and not get scared in New York is like going to the state fair and not riding the roller coaster. So Central Park serves us all in our different ways. E.B. White said that New York bestows on us the gifts of solitude and the gift of loneliness. But one gift I never expected to get is the gift of all of these visits from relatives from the Midwest. So the next time you come east, you make sure and let us know in plenty of time. And now, welcome to a Prairie Home Companion. Oh, hello, everybody. Nice to see you. Oh, look who's coming through that door. I think we met somewhere before. Hello, love. Oh, hello in the balcony there. Hello, love. Oh, where in the world have you been so long? I missed you so since you've been gone. Hello, love. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third annual farewell performance of A Prairie Home Companion. Coming to you here from the Majestic Theater in Dallas, Texas, with a great bunch of people. Brought to you by the Chatterbox Cafe, where Dorothy presides. A place to go that's just like home. Brought to you by Ralph's Pretty Good Grocery. Remember, if you can't find it at Ralph's, you can probably get along without it. With the Hopeful Gospel Quartet, Robin and Linda Williams are here, Dan Rolls and Tom Keith. Johnny Gimbel is here, and the band, and Emmylou Harris. I've heard it said time and again, you often go back where you've been. I never really believed it was true, but I left the door unlocked for you. Oh. It's a wonderful night. You're back with me. Things are like they used to be. Remember love. Oh, it's a new show, isn't it? Remember love. Oh, you're back with me. My world's complete. Don't mind me now if I repeat. Hello, love. Oh, hello, love. Yes, hello, love. Thank you there. Thank you there, and welcome to our show. We're glad you could come along here for the third annual farewell performance of an old radio show that we all loved doing for a great long time. So wanted to come back and do it a little bit more. We're on television tonight so we can show you this little prairie home back here. This is a beautiful house. Houses like this were built by the tens of thousands in hundreds and hundreds of little towns all across the Midwest and out on the open plain. People married and moved into this house and had their kids, and they made Sunday dinners, and they turned out those lights and went to sleep, and they grew old in here. And you know, I never thought that much about this house. All the years I lived out in Minnesota and the Midwest and saw these everywhere. But now I've moved to the big city. This house has become so beautiful to me. It's so delicate, and it's so graceful. It's just a masterpiece to me of modesty and the grace of the Midwest. I want to bring out here on the front porch here a lovely gospel quartet. Robin and Linda Williams here from Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, and Cape Mackenzie here.
Train, baby, all night long.
I'm gonna ride I mean, that south down train, until I hear that old conductor say, all up for Birmingham. I got a letter from my doll, babe, from down in Birmingham. She's the cutest little doll, babe, from down in Birmingham.
Well, she's so sweet down, she's so neat down. When she walks, she can knock you off of your feet.
She is some mama from down in Birmingham. I'm gonna ride I mean, that south down train. Hear the engineer say, put your shovel in the coal.
Put your head out the window, hear the drivers roll.
Gonna ride I mean, that south down train, until I hear that old conductor say, all out for Birmingham. And when I hear that whistle blow, it's music to my ear. And when I'm with my doll, babe, I don't shed no lonesome tears.
Well, she's so sweet down, she's so neat down. When she walks, she can knock you off of your feet.
She is some mama from down in Birmingham. Gonna ride I mean, that south down train. I'm gonna buy me a ticket just as long as my arm.
I'm gonna ride that train, babe, all night long.
Gonna ride I mean, that south down train, till I hear that old conductor say, all out for Birmingham.
Thank you. The Hopeful Gospel Quartet. Well, I know that you came tonight to hear the news, not just a lot of frivolous entertainment here, so. It's been a quiet spring in my hometown, Lake Wobegon, out there on the prairie. They had a good winter, a lot of snow, and spring was warm and dry, so the farmers all got out in the fields early and got most of their planting done about the time of the junior-senior prom, actually. Not that there's any connection between the two. Prom this year, the theme was a night in a New York disco, and they did up the gym in black and silver, and as part of the decor, they had a doorman who stood there at the door and was snotty to people coming in. And she did her best, and she was just as snotty as she could be to about 11 people, and then she burst into tears, and she quit. And true Lutheran child that she was, she spent the rest of the evening just going from one to the other, apologizing, saying how sorry she was. They kind of lost the New York feeling right there. It turned into a real Lake Wobegon event. The fishing season opened May 13th, walleyes and northerns and the big fighting sunfish there in Lake Wobegon, and Bruno, the fishing dog, came back for us. Yeah, she did. Yep. That good old dog, he lives down in Minneapolis with his owner. That's Lena's oldest boy. But he's not a fisherman. Harold isn't. He's an Episcopalian. And he refinishes antique furniture or something. I'm not sure what. But Bruno is a true fishing dog. And like fisherman, he sleeps in the wintertime and he's grumpy and smells bad. And then about April, he starts to smile. And first couple of weeks of May, he was just making a dash for any car door that opened, just on the odd chance it might be going his way. So finally, they shipped him up to Lena in Lake Wobegon, and she cut him loose, and he went down there to the lake and waded back and forth in the water, cold water. That old dog, he's got a little arthritis in his shoulders, but he walked right in, up to his armpits, and back and forth, trolling, just looking for a fish like that great fish that he caught in his youth, which now he can hardly even remember. It's just an urge. He doesn't understand it, I'm sure. We certainly don't. It looks miserable down there, but it's the only thing that seems to satisfy that dog. The Flag Day Committee is trying to whoop up enthusiasm for a big living flag there. In a couple of weeks, they're hoping for 1,800 people. So they're having a Flag Day, a living flag potluck and a dance and a drawing for prizes, and they're having a parade, too, that same day. High school band and antique cars and wagons, including the wagon. I never told you about this, but it's the Lake Wobegon ladies' carriage was invented by Mr. Svensson back around the turn of the century. That'll be in the parade. It was a parade that he invented to spare the sensibilities of ladies riding in a carriage and having to watch the beasts relieve themselves. So he put the horses in back of the wagon. Wagon tree back there and collars and everything, but the horses are back. There's the first rear drive horse-drawn wagon in America. He didn't count on the fact that with the horses behind, it'd be more exciting to steer this thing. Because it's difficult to rein in an animal who's behind you. So, only one was ever built, but this one was the first. So, it will be in the parade, and you'll have a chance to see it. It'll be there pushed by an automobile. Which is also a beautiful car and worth showing up to see. It's a 1957 pink Oldsmobile with white sidewalls and wire wheels. It's the most beautiful car. And hard as you may find this to believe, it was owned back in 1957 through 1960 by Darrell Tollerud, the guy who now is seen driving around town in a pickup full of chains and dogs and kids and tools rattling around and bales of straw. He used to drive this gorgeous car. You just wouldn't expect it of him. It was sold when he got married to Marilyn to a car collector down in Indiana who kept it for 20-some years and only drove it in parades, and then Clarence Bunsen got it back, and now it's up for sale again. Pink Oldsmobile. People just love to go by and look at that thing, but there haven't been any buyers yet. It isn't really a Lutheran car, that car. It seems to promise a certain romance in life that we don't really believe in. We're Lutheran people in that town. We believe in staying where you're put and doing what you're supposed to do. And that's not that car. That car sits there like a temple to hormones. It just sits and quivers. It just seems to talk to you and tells you things you're not supposed to hear. It says, hurrah, 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 hurrah. Step right up, yoza. She walks, she talks, she crawls on her belly like a reptile. Everybody come in now for the price of a child's ticket. Put away those adult tickets. Everybody comes in on a child's ticket.
25 cents, 2 bits, the fourth part of a dollar. Yowza, 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 yowza. Which is not part of Lutheran theology. You understand? So that car is for sale down there. Well, I forget what this story was about. We'll get back to it. We'll get back to it. We got some nice harmony singing on our show tonight, and you'll have a chance to sing a little bit later, too. I want to bring out now a woman who's one of my heroes in the music business because she's done so much for old-timey music and bluegrass and great old country songs. She's got the most pure and heartbreaking voice that I think a former high school valedictorian could ever have. She just breaks your heart with a song. She's had such wonderful success in the music business and had more gold and platinum and zircon and barium records and anybody's ever had, and she deserved every single bit of it. Here she is, her own beautiful self, Emmylou Harris. Here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here in this absolutely beautiful theater and on the show with Garrison. I was so honored and thrilled when he asked me to do this show with him because, as far as I'm concerned, he's the greatest American humorist that we have. I said it last night. I'll say it again, and every time I get a chance.
To hear such lies spoken in front of impressionable people here.
Well, I know that's my job.
Emmylou, you're supposed to be a model to young people here.
Well, I know I'm telling the truth, Garrison.
Listen, I'm not even going to start saying nice things about you because I just start fawning. That's all. I just start.
Well, this song is written by Dolly Parton. People forget in her beauty and splendor that she's also an amazing, wonderful songwriter. This is my favorite song of hers, and it's a true story, which makes it even better. Back through the years I go wandering once again, back to the seasons of my youth. I recall a box of rags someone gave us, and how my mama put those rags to use. There were rags of many colors, and every piece was small, and I didn't have a coat. It was way down in the fall. Mama sewed the rags together, so in every piece with love she made my coat of many colors that I was so proud of. As she sewed, she told a story from the Bible she had read about a coat of many colors, though the war. Then she said, perhaps this coat will bring you good luck and happiness, and I just couldn't wait to wear it. Mama blessed it with a kiss. A coat of many colors that my mama made for me, made from only rags, but I wore it so proudly. Although we had no money, I was rich as all I could be. My coat of many colors, my mama made for me. just have to say, I've had such a wonderful time here the last couple of nights, all the music, listening to the show. It's been such a treat. And being able to sing with Garrison, and also these lovely ladies over here. We call ourselves the Prairie Flowers. Although one of the cameramen said that we look like something out of the Burpee Seed catalog. We're not daunted by that. We'll wear our floral outfits anywhere, anytime we want, because we're cowgirls. All right. She's around her, I can tell you that. She can sing 'em all night, too. She'll race about the sleep she loves. Yeah, but even cowgirls get the blues. Especially cowgirls, they're the gypsy kind. Need the reins laid on them loose. She'll live to see the world turned upside down. Hitching right out of the blues. Even cowgirls get the blues sometimes. And we don't know what to do sometimes. Get this feeling like she's too far gone. The only way she's ever been. Lonely nights are out there on the road. Hotel scene stares you down. Well, there must be safer ways to pay your dues. Yeah, but even cowgirls get the blues. Even cowgirls get the blues sometimes. Well, they don't know what to do sometimes. Get this feeling like she's too far gone. The only way she's ever been. Even cowgirls get the blues sometimes. They only don't know what to do sometimes. Get this feeling like the restless wind. The only way she's ever been.
Have a new Harris. Darcy's great. So that dog's walking in the shallow water there, back and forth. Day after day, in the middle of May, that water's cold. That dog's got a long, sad look in his eye. Walking back and forth down there. Clarence Bunsen down at Bunsen Motors watched him out of the back door. Clarence leaning up on that 57 Oldsmobile with wire wheels. He looked at that dog and he thought, there I am. That's my life. Going back and forth. Looking for something that I've even forgotten what it was, except that it's down there somewhere in the shallow water. But he went down to lunch down at the Chatterbox Cafe, and he was down there with his brother Clint and with Carl Krebsbach and Carl's brother-in-law Lyle. And one thing led to another, and they got up from that lunch table, and they, after one brief call home, the four of them got in that 57 Olds.
and they headed south, and they drove 20 straight hours to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 4 middle-aged, church-going, hard-working, upstanding members of our community drove 20 hours straight through to Pittsburgh, PA, to buy $40 worth of $5 lottery tickets in that Pennsylvania State Lottery. The one that had the $57 million in prizes or whatever it was. Drove straight through, and they got out there the next afternoon. They were going to stay overnight at Clarence's cousin's house, but it turned out he'd moved from Pittsburgh several years before, and so they turned around and they tanked up on coffee and they headed back home, and they got back home in 21 hours, staying awake by means of the useful device of telling dirty jokes. When you are short on sleep and have to keep going, there's nothing keeps you going like dirty jokes. And Lyle was writing down the punchlines in a little blue notebook. And they knew 586 dirty jokes, these 4 men. And these are churchmen. He wrote down all the punchlines and brought them all home. Punchlines like, well, you don't expect an old guy like that to catch a rabbit, do you? That's a good one. And that's just a bunch of sheep down there, but they're all liars anyway. Some of you remember that. He came home with that blue notebook, and his wife found it in his pocket. She was disgusted. Women don't go for dirty jokes because they never really lead to anything. I guess you understand that. I don't need to explain that. So she took that little blue notebook and she threw that away, or thought she did, but the paper sack she put it in wasn't garbage. That was their oldest girl, Teresa's clothes that she was sending down to the church rummage sale. That went down there. There was a lot of talk about that trip of theirs in that pink Oldsmobile out to the lottery, and in fact, Father Wilbur up at Our Lady of Perpetual Responsibility and Pastor David Inkvist at Lake Wobegon Lutheran, each of them preached a sermon on the temptations of easy money. And people breathed a great sigh of relief as days went by, and apparently they had not won the prize. Because we are Lutheran people. And we're hard-working people. And if one of our neighbors were to win millions of dollars on the basis of having bought a $5 lottery ticket, I don't know how you'd bring up your kids after that. What you'd tell them, it would spoil a whole generation. Somebody who won a lottery like that in Lake Wobegon, we'd have to drive him out of town, get rid of him. And that occurred to Clarence Bunsen, that if he won that prize, he'd have to leave home. He'd be too different. And he'd be driven out, and he'd be forced by fate to go live in a big city where within months he would be straight down in the gutter and would be an object lesson to Lutherans everywhere on the dangers of success. Yes, so he was relieved too when the weeks went by and obviously he hadn't won. He just moved the price down on that 57 Olds from $22.95 down to $21.50 and down to $19.75. Nobody bought it. The only one who was really interested in it was Darrell Tollerud's oldest boy, Eric, looking at his dad's old car. His dad said, "You don't want that. That's a gas hog. All that chrome, that's a full-time job taking care of that car. Besides, it's got something wrong in the rear end. It's got a shimmy over 30 miles an hour." Boy still wanted it. So beautiful. He sat in the driver's seat, and he was adjusting the seat to move it back, and he pulled the lever, and he found that the back of the driver's seat went all the way back to the back seat. So did the passenger seat, go all the way back. Made a double bed in that car. He said, Dad. His dad said, well, you see what I mean? We had that same problem when we owned that car. Well, this story leads somewhere. I'm not sure where, but we'll find out in detail. We want to bring out here a couple of special friends of ours that we ran into in the parking lot down the street and around the corner on Elm Street. Parked in their little motor home and found out from them that they just finished a brand new cassette on the Do Tell record label. Here are the stars of bluegrass in our time. Please welcome Marvin and Mavis Smiley and the Manhattan Valley Boys. There they are.
Give my regards to Broadway. Remember me to Herald Square. Tell all my friends at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper how I'm yearning to mingle with the old time throng. Give my regards to old Broadway and tell them I'll be there for long.
Yes, Mavis and Marvin Smiley and their brand new cassette, Broadway Bluegrass. All your favorite Broadway hits done up in the Mavis and Marvin Smiley style. Songs like Shall We Dance?
Shall we dance? Shall we dance? On a bright cloud music, shall we fly? Shall we dance? Shall we dance? Shall we dance? Say night and meet goodbye. Shall we dance? Shall we dance? Shall we dance? Shall we dance? Shall we dance?
Mavis and Marvin Smiley, Broadway Bluegrass. Every song is different. Every song is unique. Songs like You'll Never Walk Alone.
When you walk through a storm, keep your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden tide, a sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, yeah. And you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
Songs of Leonard Bernstein, Stephen Sondheim, Rodgers and Hammerstein.
I'm gonna watch that man right out of my hair. I'm gonna watch that man right out of my hair. I'm gonna watch that man right out of my hair and send him on his way.
Broadway songs performed as only Mavis and Marvin Smiley can perform
The
them.
hills are alive with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears on the lake.
34 songs on one cassette. This record not available in stores. Songs from Sound of Music and from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the way, hey, hey. And the wind, we can sure smell sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain, hey, hey. You're doing fine, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, you're okay, hey, hey.
Broadway Bluegrass, Mavis and Marvin Smiley. Be sure to get your copy tonight.
Tonight won't be just any night. Tonight there will be no morning star. Tonight, I'll see my love tonight. And for us, stars will stop where they are. Moons grow bright and make this endless day, endless night.
Mavis and Marvin Smiley, the Manhattan Valley Boys, Broadway Bluegrass. On album, cassette, or 8-track. Get your copy tonight. Oh, we want to come over here into the living room and back there and lie on the floor here. And I used to listen to this show on the radio. Never understood it then. See how it sounds now. Yes, and now Scotty's cough syrup for dogs. For your dog's cough, croup, or sore throat, reach for Scotty's, the only cough medicine your dog will ever need or want. Scotty's presents The Adventures of Buster the Show Dog, starring Tom Keith as Buster and Father Finian and Timmy the Sad Rich Teenage Boy, Kate McKenzie as Sheila the Christian Jungle Girl, and Dan Rolls as a number of other persons. When we last saw our friends, they were living in New York City, where Buster had become a developer dog, a billionaire real estate hound, living in tasteless luxury with scantily clad chorus girls, pawing them, bragging about his corporate takeovers, while in the background his underlings schemed against him.
He may be top dog now, but you wait, Randall.
And far below on the East River in their squalid quarters aboard a rental schooner, his friends Father Finian and Sheila and Timmy were trying to stay afloat among the storms of urban life.
What's that?
Swiftly, the Christian Jungle Girl raced to the door and out into the storm. And a moment later, she dashed back in, carrying a load of...
Why, it's the Sunday New York Times. Oh, why, it weighs 80 pounds. It's like a sack of cement.
A delivery boy threw it down on the deck and it sprang the bowsprit and knocked a hole in the hull. We gotta get off this boat. Hurry!
What's that?
We've come loose from the dock.
We're drifting into the river, into the riptide.
We'll be out to sea in minutes. What can we do?
I'll take the wheel. Here. Oh, no, broken.
Oh, Father, we're lost. We don't stand a chance. But I still expect you to do your share of the housework.
Leaking badly, the ancient schooner rolled to starboard as its battered hull was seized by the riptide and carried out toward the merciless sea, while at the same time, a few blocks away, a long gray limo pulled up to the curb, and Buster stepped out and walked to the door of the Buster building, his security card in his mouth. He put it in the slot beside the big marble door and punched in his code. But nothing happened. And then he was all alone on the street, and then a craven figure approached from the shadows.
Hey, you dumb dog. Come here. I can get $20 for you down at that laboratory. Come here. Here, have a dog biscuit. It'll help you relax.
Moments later, at the nearby science building,
Morning, sir. Why, you got a dog for us.
I got me a real sleepy dog. Take me up to the laboratory, Igor.
Yes, sir.
they got on the elevator and rode up to the 52nd floor.
Good morning. The scientists will see you in just a moment.
And in a moment, Buster lay on a cold steel table.
Today, I think we will attempt a little experiment, Mr. Buster, and see if we can't remove your tail and attach it to your forehead. Yes, such a dog would be extremely valuable. First, we will shave your entire body. Now, just hold steady there.
Can it be true? Our three friends lost at sea in a leaking apartment, Buster in the hands of science. Meanwhile...
Hold on, Mr. Buster. Almost done shaving you. Then we'll do that tail transplant.
While out in New York Harbor, treacherous tides bore the tiny, fragile, rotting schooner ever farther toward its inevitable fate.
Grab the main sheet. Don't just sit there. Do something. Be useful. Call the Coast Guard.
I don't know their number.
It's not a number. It's letters. SOS. You're so incapable. I'll call them myself. Could you at least straighten up a little around here?
Well, the ship is sinking.
Oh, it's always something, isn't it?
I hope that isn't what I know it is. You look, Sheila.
Holy cow, it's the Queen Elizabeth! And it's bearing straight down at us!
The tiny, fragile schooner lay helplessly in the water. The mighty ocean liner loomed high above it, only inches away from them, its cruel steel bow rising up like the face of a cliff that was just about to. Meanwhile, stretched out in the laboratory, Buster sensed that something was wrong, that Timmy and Sheila and Father Finian were in trouble. Cleverly, he pretended to be helpless and sleepy, waiting for the moment when the fiend's back was turned.
Now, where was my knife? Maybe it's here in this old coffin here. Well, here's the candelabra. I can use that. No!
Buster locked the coffin lid and pulled the scientist's long cape around his naked dog body and walked out the door.
Have a nice day.
And went down the elevator
Ground floor.
and out to the street,
Catch you later.
where he flagged down a police car, and soon Buster and Sergeant Preston were speeding toward Brooklyn and the Verrazano Bridge.
What kind of boat they on, Pooch? A two-masted schooner? That means trouble.
Meanwhile, aboard the tiny rotting schooner, as the ocean liner bore down upon them, inches away, our friends prepared for the end.
Father, it's been 6 months since my last confession.
But hurry, Sheila, just give me the highlights.
Well, okay. Back in February, I committed the sin of lust. And then all through March and April, the sin of guilt.
What?
Wait! That ocean liner isn't bearing down on us. Look at that chain. That's an anchor chain. It's anchored in the harbor.
And it's the SS France. Oh, boy.
As a crewman above tossed down a rope to the tiny boat, a distinguished man in a white nautical suit descended a rope ladder and spoke to them with a continental accent.
Pardon, madame. I presume you are our pilot? So if you please now come aboard, we will be underway in just a moment. This way, please. Watch your step.
Pilot?
Just say yes, you can do it.
Well, are you coming in or going out?
We are bound for France, naturellement. Please hurry.
Well, I never piloted an ocean liner before, but heck, it's a big ocean out there. What can happen?
And the Christian jungle girl and her friends, the sad teenager and the priest, swung themselves up onto the rope ladder at the same second as the schooner sank beneath their feet and disappeared beneath the waves. Meanwhile, in the main salon of the SS France, Father Finian had struck up a friendship with the band leader, Mickey Valdespino.
Well, now, the church has always frowned on the tango, but I feel that a person's motives are the main thing. You are wise, Senor Finian.
Further conversation revealed that he and Mickey were both size 52 short, and within minutes, Father Finian appeared in the salon sporting a white tuxedo and a powder blue shirt with silk ruffles, sipping a gin and tonic, and then the woman walked past.
Oh, be still me pounding Irish heart. Oh, celibacy, where are you when I need you?
There, in a thin silver lame gown that clung to her young nubile body like tin foil on a chicken burrito, stood the playgirl Lola Montage, heiress to the Pine Glow Room freshener and Bug Bomb fortune. A beauty who made some men faint and made the others lie down on their backs and wave their arms and legs.
Hey, you big, handsome man, you. There's something wonderful about you I can't quite put my finger on. Say, what's that white band around your neck?
What? This? Oh, that's a collar. I'm a pre-med student. And, yes, this is a new orthopedic collar that I'm trying. It's for a slight injury I suffered playing football. Notre Dame.
Oh, are you Catholic?
Me mother was Catholic, yes.
She raised her jewel-bedazzled hand laden with sapphire bracelets.
Don't talk just now. Hold me, just for a moment. I believe in living for the moment, don't you? Oh, put your arms around me real tight and squeeze me till I squeak.
Oh, your lips, your tiny red ripe lips, your long white neck, your throat, your collarbones. Monsieur? Who is this? Oh, why, you... I'll teach you something, you... take this. I dare you to say that again. I dare you to stand right here and say that. Je la take up the oh, oh, oh. Why, you dirty, There, that ought to show you.
Oh, how can I ever show you my gratitude for shielding me from that foreign brute?
Oh, I'm butter on your knife, Lola. I'm but a chain on your sprocket of love. When you breathe on me, I go weak in the knees. Oh, Lola, I'm yours. Love me, hold me, touch me, take me.
Father, how could you?
But Sheila, I was only going
You
through...
were not. I read ahead in the script. Look, here on page 9 and page 10.
Oh, Lord, this is good. There's great stuff here on page 13 and 14 and... Oh, Lord, page 18.
Father, where are your morals, let alone your standards?
Oh, please, mister.
He said, speaking directly to the tall but strangely attractive writer of the Buster series, over whose weathered face suddenly an expression of tender sympathy came, which then with equal suddenness turned to seriousness, and who, in speaking, displayed the characteristic hesitance of the true intellectual, but with a certain charming simplicity that instantly won the priest's confidence.
Well, all right, very well. We'll save pages 9 through 18 for when we reach France. C'est la vie.
And just then, as the ship came under the Verrazano Bridge and headed for sea...
Look, it's Buster, swimming to catch us.
Tossed on a rope. Here, Buster. Wrench him up easy.
Oh, Buster, you gave up a fortune just to be with your old pals in trouble. You good dog. Why, you're soaked to the skin. Why, you're naked. You poor thing.
Ah, that's all the fashion over there now.
Europe, we're off to Europe. Paris, Vienna, Rome, and Copenhagen.
Foreign travel. Maybe that will bring me true happiness.
That's all the time we have for today's episode of Buster the Show Dog, starring Tom Keith as Buster, Kate McKenzie as Sheila, with sound effects by Dan Rolls and Myron Mortel. Written by a manual transmission and directed for radio by Norman Conquest, with music by Rich Dworsky, and brought to you by Scotty's Cough Syrup for Dogs. For your dog's cough, croup, or sore throat, reach for Scotty's. And Scotty's cat cough syrup handles hairballs, too. Even the great big ones. Good night.
We brought you over here to Brooklyn so you could get a different perspective on New York and see where Buster lived, where that play took place that you just saw on the radio. That's the Buster building, that big green glass monstrosity up there. And this is the East River, where that rental schooner was anchored that Father Finian and Timmy and Sheila all lived on. It was on a dock right up there above the Brooklyn Bridge, where the Sunday New York Times knocked it loose, and it came out here into the riptide, which pulled it out into the harbor. You can't see the riptide from here, but it's down there. It's dangerous. You want to watch out for it. It was out here in New York Harbor where they almost crashed into and then got on board the SS France, which sailed out through the Verrazano Bridge, which is just up that way. You just see it through the mist there, and off to Europe. Europe is just over, about straight over that way, just the other side of Brooklyn. I go over to Europe every so often because my wife comes from there and because we have relatives over there whom I get along with pretty well, probably because we don't understand each other at all, which is the same way that I get along here in New York City. I come from a place that's so different from this, you see, where people live in frame houses on big wide streets under tall trees. It's so different from this, there's no comparison between the two of them. And so neither one is better or worse than the other. When I first came here, New Yorkers always asked me what I thought about New York and if I liked it. And because I'm from the Midwest and polite and mannerly, I always said I liked it just fine, that it was a pretty good place to live. But I found out that New Yorkers don't care for my kind of politeness. They take it as a sign of lack of interest. And so I've learned to complain about New York, which is what New Yorkers really want to hear. They want to hear your story about a maniac cab driver or about the horrors of apartment renovation, which give them a chance to tell their stories about maniac cab drivers and their story about apartment renovation, which ends all apartment renovation stories. So I do my best, although I really do like living here. And it's a fabulous place for a writer to live. Any place you go in New York, you come within a few blocks of some place where a writer did something that was magnificent. It's really the city of Mark Twain, though you associate him with the Mississippi River. This is the city that he kept coming back to, the city where he made his reputation. This is the city that he came back to die in. And this is really where he wrote his first good stuff. It was just over across the river from here, when he came here at the age of 14 as a printer's apprentice and wrote letters back to his mother in Hannibal. That was the first good stuff he wrote. I came here for the first time when I was 11 years old. My dad brought me. We stayed in Brooklyn with friends of his from the war. We went to Ebbets Field to see the Dodgers and saw Coney Island and saw Manhattan. But more than any one thing that we saw, I remember being dazzled by this city. Nothing that you do for a child is ever wasted, I guess. And it's probably because of that trip that I live here. Everything that you know for sure, you learn by the time you're 18 years old. And when you're dazzled by a city, you never forget it.
As I walked out one evening to breathe the air and soothe my mind, I thought of friends and the home I had and all the things I left behind. Oh, as silent stars shone on me, my eyes sought the far horizon, as if to pierce this veil of time and escape this earthly prison. Oh, will there come a time when the memories fade and pass on with the long, long years, when the ties no longer bind? Lord, save me from this darkest fear. Don't let me come home a stranger. I couldn't stand to be a stranger. In this place so far from home, they know my name, but they don't know me. They hear my voice, they see my face, but they can lay no claim on me. Oh, will there come a time when the memories fade and pass on with the long, long years, when the ties no longer bind? Lord, save me from this darkest fear. Don't let me come home a stranger. I couldn't stand to be a stranger. And as I walk this universe, I free my mind of time and space. I wander through the galaxies, but never do I find my place. Oh, will there come a time when the memories fade and pass on with the long, long years, when the ties no longer bind? Lord, save me from this darkest fear. Don't let me come home a stranger. I couldn't stand to be a stranger.
So Clarence Bunsen marked that 57 Oldsmobile down a little bit farther, yeah. Marked that down to $1,625. He stood in the back door of Bunsen Motors looking down towards the lake. Could see just the head and the shoulders and the tail of that dog moving around deeper in the shallows. Well, maybe that's what my life is like, he thought. He felt so good knowing that he wasn't going to win that Pennsylvania state lottery, and so he wouldn't have to leave Lake Wobegon and fall into disgrace in a big city and be a moral lesson to other people. So I went up to the sidetrack tap. This was about 11 o'clock in the morning, and had himself a glass of bitters to celebrate. He's Norwegian, so you wouldn't have a sweet drink when you feel good, you know. You might feel too good. He went into the sidetrack tap, and he sat there in the dim light and noticed Mr. Berge sitting a few stools down at the bar. Mr. Berge, who was our town drunk for so many years. And then, to the great confusion of all of us, went on the wagon. And ever since then, we haven't been able to find our way. He was a moral marker in our town. We looked at him, we knew where the bottom was. Now we look at each other, you know. He quit drinking on account of one night he got so drunk. And he woke up the next morning and he was ordering breakfast at a dinette set in a furniture store in Minneapolis. Cured him for a while. So Wally leaned forward after the first glass of bitters and he said, "I suppose you've heard the news." Well, Clarence wasn't sure he wanted to. And it was terrible news. The news that Inkvists, David and Judy, Pastor and Mrs., are getting a divorce. That can't be true, Clarence said. That's the main marriage in our town, the marriage of the Lutheran minister and his wife. That's the one that we all study, that we all know something about. Because we're a town of Christian families there. We're not Norwegian bachelor farmers. Those guys are satirists. We're humorists. We're married people. We believe in children and that whole comic life. So the news that the main marriage in town is going to pieces makes everyone shake in their shoes. The trouble started, I guess, back in January, when the Inkvists got snookered out of their annual trip south for the Lutheran ministers' winter retreat. It was down in San Diego this year, and they were planning to go right up until a few days before when the church board, Val Tollefson, really, said they couldn't go down there and also get the siding fixed on the parsonage. So being good Lutherans, they made the practical decision, or rather David did. Judy wanted to go down to San Diego about. David said, no, we'll get the siding put on. And then they never even got the siding. Val Tollefson didn't even get the siding put on, so now they still got those old brown shingles on the parsonage, been on there for 20-some years. Meant to look like bricks, but it's just like tar paper. Like sharecroppers living in a cabin there next door to the church. And meanwhile, Val Tollefson finagled things through the building committee that money got used to make and put up a painted glass window, not stained glass, painted glass window of St. Andrew up on the south side of the sanctuary. Judy can see it when she looks out her bathroom window. The saint standing 12.5 feet tall, wearing the outfit of a Roman soldier, a skirt of mail and a sword and a shield and a great Roman helmet, and looking down with fierce eyes directly at their house, as if daring them to come over. Well, she'd been depressed since Advent, but the worst was to come yet in March, early April, when Ella Anderson died in the middle of the night. That great old lady, the town's favorite old gardener and friend, died in the middle of the night at the age of 87 of a heart attack. Just waltzed out of bed and became incorruptible and went out the window and ascended on up, leaving behind a very complicated life for other people to pick up the pieces. Her husband, Henry, 89 years old, has been somewhere else for a long, long time. We're never sure where, but he seems to enjoy it there. And seems to be riding the Burlington Zephyr between St. Paul and Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, with friends, and it's somewhere back in the 1920s. And their daughter, Charlotte, 61 years old and unstable even in the best of times, and since her divorce, completely unpredictable, a wild, unhappy woman. Mr. Lundberg came in the morning for the body and carried it away, and Pastor Inquist went down to be with the survivors, tried to console them. But the widower sat there in his rocking chair. He was perfectly happy. He seemed to be on his way on a fishing trip somewhere with friends and was talking to them about things. And Charlotte was rampaging from room to room, bellowing and shrieking and tearing her clothes and throwing them on the floor. These people were not grieving as Lutherans grieve. Lutherans grieve for a little while, and then they go downstairs and they eat some lunch. They eat some casserole that has cream of mushroom soup in it, and it binds them together again. But Charlotte wasn't having any of it, and finally Pastor Dave called up his wife Judy, and he said, would you come up here for half an hour so I can call some relatives and get them to come over? She knew she should have said no, but she's been a Lutheran for too long. And she said, okay, I will. And she went to the Andersons' house, and she wound up staying for 11 days. 11 days. She was the unappointed, unpaid chairman of the Rescue the Andersons Committee. And never mind all the gory details, but it was 11 days spent in very hard work among some very unhappy people who were no fun to be with whatsoever. Getting Henry packed off to a care center and Charlotte put into a program for the incapable, and getting things packed up and thrown away and given away and sold that could be sold, and the house so it could be sold. And when she finally got done with it after 11 days, she marched down to the parsonage in a frame of mind to shoot She was ready to shoot him. She went through the rooms looking for him, breathing through her mouth hard. Regretted ever having met him, regretted marrying him, regretted going to Concordia College. She never wanted to go to Concordia College. She'd wanted to go to Bathsheba Bible College. That was the one they all talked about in the Luther League down in Chicago. That was the college that put the fun into fundamentalism. Those evangelicals were wild people in their youth, some of them. Those Baptists at Bathsheba Bible College, I tell you. I used to say if you weren't pregnant after your senior year at Bathsheba, you really should check with your doctor. She couldn't find him anywhere in the house. She walked through the house and out the back door, and she turned and she looked, and there was the figure of St. Andrew on the south side of the Lutheran church, glaring down at her, accusing her of all sorts of things. She was so mad at him, and she still couldn't find him. He was around there somewhere, though. She went down to the church rummage sale, and she got a bag full of clothes. Gosh, they were good-looking clothes. She was wearing them when he came home that evening. A red peasant blouse that tied around the waist, and pedal pushers that were a little bit too tight, but that was all right. And a big pair of yellow earrings on each ear, and high-heeled shoes. She was sitting there, one leg up on the couch when he walked in the door, and she was drinking a daiquiri. She was drinking it out of a jelly glass, but it was a daiquiri. He said, "Who do you think you are?" She said, "When I find out, you'll be the first one to know." That night she called up her best friend, Arlene Bunsen, and she said, "Leanie, I need a car. I gotta go to Minneapolis. And don't ask me for how long." He was looking around on the dresser for his wallet, and he saw this little blue notebook. He opened it up, and he read a few of the sentences in there. He thought to himself, "You know, I don't really know her as well as I thought I did." And the next morning he found a note on his desk. She was gone. She'd left him a note. It said, "Goodbye. Back eventually. Love, your wife." There was no comma after love. Love, your wife. And she was gone. She was gone, driving south toward Minneapolis. She'd gotten from Arlene Bunsen that pink 57 Oldsmobile with all the chrome and the two big rear window speakers, and driving towards Minneapolis. She turned the radio up loud, the music of that faraway city, so strange and exciting. And then about 12 miles down the road, she's just coming up to the freeway to get on I-94, and she took her foot off the gas, and she knew what she had to do. She thought, why am I leaving? That's my home too. She turned around and she came back. She knew what she had to do. She didn't have any verses from the Bible to back her up. It was just pure faith. She pulled up in front of the parsonage and parked on the street, and she jumped out and she marched over towards the Lutheran church. And in her dedication, she didn't hear the crunch of gravel behind her as the Oldsmobile started to roll slowly back, slowly down that long incline. She didn't notice. She walked over and she picked up the biggest rock she could find there out of the rock garden, and she advanced towards that window of St. Andrew. She looked up at him and she said, "I do this in the name of the Lord God." And she wound up and she threw a low, flat curveball that came in high and looped down and caught that saint in his ankles And she saw a great flash of light. The window turned to light, dazzling light, the reflection of thousands of little jagged pieces of glass as they hung there in the air, and then slowly, beautifully fell like a waterfall of glass and hit the ground with a great musical chord, a crystal chord of hallelujah, fell on the ground. Pastor Inkvist heard that crash. He thought, she's home. She's here. He came out the door as the Oldsmobile slowly came across the Stenson's yard and across the peonies and clipped the corner of their garage, which redirected it due east and down McKinley Street and down rear end first towards the lake, where the dog wandered back and forth in the shallow water. When it heard that great crash, it thought it was a fish jumping from the water. And Bruno turned, and there was a fish just right there on the water. He plunged 3 plunges and seized the fish between his jaws. And he ran up on the bank and up the grass, and he'd run about 20 yards up on the grass before he realized that that fish had been dead a long, long time. Terrible taste. He dropped the fish in the grass. He ate a little bit of grass, but there was something worse on the grass. And that dog suddenly felt this obsession leave him. The need to fish had left him completely. That dog walked up the hill towards Lena's house, not even noticing a 57 pink Oldsmobile as it slowly came across Main Street and down the last half block towards the lake. Judy stood there looking up at the empty window. Now you could at last see into the church. The moment the glass fell to earth, she heard windows opening all over town. She heard doors easing open. She heard curtains being pulled aside. But she didn't care, because when the glass fell, something inside her all fell too. And she was healed. She was miraculously healed right there. The car plunged into the lake and came to rest, the water up to the windows. Pastor Inkvist put his arms around her. He said, "Are you all right?" She said, "I did it. I've never felt so wonderful," she said. Bruno came trotting home up to Lena's house. He was cured. He never needed to fish again. That dog just lay in the sun until he dried off, watched the birds, smelled the flowers, ate a little bit of grass. That plunge into the lake cleared up the shimmy in the rear end of that Oldsmobile. For some reason, I don't know how. Fixed that car. Clarence marked it down to $1,000, and Eric Tollerud is going to buy it. His dad loaned him the money. None of this news appeared in the Lake Wobegon Herald Star the next week. Herald Star, unlike so many other journalists, doesn't dwell on the past. He's a forward-looking man. The top headline in the Herald Star that week read, "Big turnout forecast for Flag Day. Living flag may be biggest in history." And I sure hope that it is. That's a community project. It's something we do as a community, that living flag. You may not be able to see that living flag, but then you can't see a community either. But we need it. We need that feeling of community to give us a little bit of slack as individuals, to be sad sometimes, to be crazy sometimes, Nobody said anything about that window to Judy Inkvist, not a breath. After all those rumors of their divorce, they just disappeared inside the parsonage for about 24 hours. When they came out, it all seemed to be settled. There's a big sheet of plastic now over that window of the Lutheran church, and depending on how the wind moves it and where the sun is and how the shadows are, you can see the faces of all different saints up there. You can see your grandma up there. You see your aunt and uncle up there. And some of the faces of the people around you. The saints who live up in my little town. Up in Lake Wobegon, where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the children are above average. Everyone.
Thank you so much. Let's bring out the gospel quartet here, the Hopeful Gospel Quartet with the gospel band and our honorary hopefuls here, Emmylou Harris and Molly Mason, going to step up and sing a part on this old Staples family song called You Don't Knock, You Just Walk In.
You don't knock, you just walk on in the door. That's all you ever say. There's love and joy for you to share. The whole day through. Well, I know my friends are there to rest in heaven's nest. You don't knock, ring, push or hold. The door's wide open, waiting for you, so you don't knock. You just walk on in. Well, I walk life's winding road. Oh yeah, joy to be disclosed. Oh yeah, travel both night and day. Oh yeah, so tired and hard to pray. Well, Jesus, my life, my guide. Oh yeah, ever by my side. Oh yeah, so I'm walking, not knocking into heaven with pride. You don't knock, you just walk on in the door. That's all you heaven. Well, there's love and joy for you to share the whole day through. Well, I know my friends are there to rest in heaven's nest. You don't knock, ring, push or hold. The door's wide open, waiting for you, so you don't knock. You just walk on in. Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air. Ezekiel saw the wheel in the middle of the air. And the little wheel runs by faith, and the big wheel runs by the grace of God. It's a wheel in a wheel in the middle of the air. Well, one of these days about 5 o'clock, away in the middle of the air, said this old well's gonna reel and rock. Away in the middle of the air, Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air. Ezekiel saw the wheel in the middle of the air. And the little wheel runs by faith, and the big wheel runs by the grace of God. It's a wheel in a wheel in the middle of the air. Well, no need to fear. Oh yeah, He is ever near. Oh yeah, He'll know my work was true. Oh yeah, so glad today is through. Well, won't need to stay. Oh yeah, any day I'll make my way. Oh yeah, so I'm walking, not knocking into heaven. Goodbye. You just walk on in the door. That's all you have. Oh, there's love and joy for you to share the whole day. Well, I know my friends are there to rest in heaven's nest. You don't knock, ring, push or hold. The door's wide open, waiting for you, so you don't knock. You just walk on in. No, you don't knock, you just walk on in the door. That's all you have. There's love and joy for you to share the whole day through. I know my friends are there to rest in heaven's nest. You don't knock, ring, push or hold. The door's wide open, waiting for you, so you don't knock. You just walk on in.
Emmylou Harris, the Hopeful Gospel Quartet, Molly Mason, and the band here. Thank you, dear. Thanks to all of you for coming tonight. It's been wonderful being with you here in Dallas at the Majestic Theater. It sure is majestic. But even though it is, and even though I doubt this was done by a Lutheran architect, still you make us feel at home here, and we're grateful for that, because we're a long way away from home, and like a lot of you, there isn't much chance we're going to get back there anytime soon. You leave home and you think about it all the time. You miss those people so much. The people who talk like you and know your jokes, and people who brought you up and took care of you when you were sick. A dozen times you feel like turning around and going back there after you leave, but you don't do it. And I don't know why. Except that home is a spiritual place. Home is a place in our hearts. It's where we feel it at rest, where our spirits prosper. And I feel at home here with you. Skies were blue, my eyes were true, when I lived in Lake Wobegon long ago. And now I know joy was mine in my prairie home. I look back and shed a tear to see it in the rearview mirror. I said I'd just be gone a couple months, and now it's almost 30 years. Woe begone, I remember oh so well how peacefully among the woods and fields you lie. My woe begone, I close my eyes and I can see you just as clearly as in days gone by. Good night. Cat song here. Well, my cat, she pleaded, and my cat, she cried for me to open up the door and let her go outside. Then she sat on the lawn underneath a tree, pretending that she couldn't hear me. And I said, cat,
Oh, cat,
you better go on home.
you better go on home.
Oh, cat,
Oh, cat,
you better come on
you
home.
better come on home.
There's dogs in the dark waiting to attack, and cat talks looking for a late night snack. So cat, oh cat, you better come on home. Well, my cat, she turned and she tossed her head. I may or may not come, she said. I'm a cat who's deeply dissatisfied. I'll let you know when I decide. I said, cat,
Oh, cat,
you better come on home
you
now.
better come on home.
Yeah, oh cat,
Oh, cat,
you better come on home.
you better come on home.
I'll close this door and I'll lock this bolt. You can spend the night in the snow and the cold. So cat, oh cat, you better come on home. She said, I'd rather be a cat that meets a terrible fate than live with a man who don't appreciate that a cat is independent and a true highbrow, and a man's a little high-class chow. Yes, yes, I've seen the food that you feed your guests, the turkey and the tuna and the chicken breast. Do you share them with your cat? No, you don't. No way. Not the poached perch liver pate. I said, cat,
Oh, cat,
come home.
come home.
Oh, cat,
Oh, cat,
get in here.
get in here.
I'm not about to stand here and argue with a cat now. What would the next door neighbors think of that? So, cat,
Oh, cat, you better come on home. Well, I never, she said, and she turned in a huff. You've seen the last of your old cat Puff. She left with a hump, a sardonic laugh, and she left for a year and a half. I felt so bad, full of guilt and shame. I walked around town just calling her name, with a great big plate of Chateaubriand and some tuna fish in my hand. I said, cat, oh, please come home.
Please come home.
Oh, cat,
Oh, cat,
please come home.
please come home.
Come on, old Puff, come home with us. I got a lot of friends' benefits I'd like to discuss now. Cat, oh, cat, please come home. Sure enough, she came back one day last fall. She was on her last leg, she could barely crawl, with her great big tail dragging on the ground, 'cause she weighed about 89 pounds. She looked like something that the cat dragged in, with her tongue hanging out on her double chin, great big bags underneath her eyes. She said, "It's me, surprise." I said, "Cat, I'm glad you come home."
I'm glad you come home.
Oh, cat,
Oh, cat,
I'm glad you come home.
I'm glad you come home.
No need to explain, my old cat friend, I'm just glad to have you back again. So cat, oh cat, I'm glad you come home. I picked her up like a big fur sack. She said, "Easy, Jack, I got a salmon on my back. I got a big salmon habit, and that's no lie. I gotta go cold turkey on the tuna fish pie." Yeah. If other cats could only know to hang their hats on the status quo, 'cause the very worst thing that a cat can do is to make all its dreams come true. It's true. Cat,
Oh, cat,
you'd better go home.
you better come home.
Yes, cats,
Yes, cat,
you'd better go home.
you better go home.
There's dogs in the dark waiting to attack, and cat fox looking for a late night snack. So cats, you better go home.
Here's what's next on the Disney Channel.